Good evening, everybody. How are you tonight? Good. You guys sound a little sleepy. A little sleepy. I'm tired too. I mean, this weather is just, it's exhausting. Anyways, guys, so tonight we are in our series, Switch, which tonight we're talking about switching from comfort to purpose. And getting out of your comfort zone, that can be really scary, right? It can be super uncomfortable, obviously. You're in your comfort zone. You want to get out of it. And trying something new or standing up for something that you believe in can be super scary. So I thought since we're talking about getting out of our comfort zone, we could try something fun tonight to get started. So do we have any skateboard fans out there? Yes. All right. We have a few. Yes. All right. I see you guys. Sweet. I'm a skateboard fan too, obviously. Do we have anyone out there who has never ridden a skateboard before, but has always wanted to try? Yeah? Yeah? All right, you right there. Nathan. Yes. Who else? Ashley, why don't you come on up? All right, cool. Come on up. We're going to have you guys try out a skateboard. Yeah, come on, Nathan. Let's do it. Let's do it. Give him a round of applause. Yeah, let's bring him on up. Hey, Nicole, would you mind coming up and helping out as well? All right, so never ridden a skateboard before in your life. How are you guys feeling? You feeling okay? Are you like, what did I sign up for? All right, so Nicole, do you mind going to the other side of the stage? We want to make sure nobody gets hurt. We're going to make this super simple. Super duper simple, all right? So this is a great example of like stepping out of your comfort zone, right? I'm just so proud of you guys. Thank you for coming up here. Okay, so here we go. You put your front foot here, up towards the front, and then you push off. And then all we're gonna do is just get you guys like doing a push and then stand. Cool? And if you don't land like that, it's okay. Who wants to go first? Oh. All right. Yes, Ashley. All right, I'll be standing right by you. Okay, so whatever foot you wanna do, put it up. Yeah, right there. Right there would be perfect. Right there, okay. Now we're gonna push off with that foot. Okay, all right. You got it. All right, let's try again. You got it. Yes! What? That's legit. All right, why don't you stay up here while Nathan does it? Okay, Nathan. Here, we're gonna scooch it over. No one's gonna fall off the stage tonight. Okay, so whatever foot you wanna have on here first. What do you think? That one? Okay, if you need to hold my hand, it's cool. There's no shame in that. All right, now push off with that foot. All right, there we go. Now step on. Okay, you got this. You want to try one more time? No? All right. It's all good. Let's give it up for them. Hey, before you guys take off, so the thing that is so great about stepping out of your comfort zone is when you step out of your comfort zone, there is great reward. So we wanted to give you guys some skateboards tonight, just for, yeah.
Yes!
So have fun, wear a helmet, be safe. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can we give them a round of applause again while I tie my shoe? Yeah, so for me, stepping out of my comfort zone, one way, has been skateboarding. I just started skateboarding this summer. When I was in junior high, I had this like big dream to be a skateboarder. And I was just like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be awesome at it, and it's gonna be great. So what did I do? I asked 2 guys that I knew from the youth group that skateboarded to teach me how to skateboard. That was a terrible idea, because they thought, oh yeah, this is a great time to like flirt with a girl and make fun of a girl, all in one take. So what they would do is like, I would like be trying to learn. I'm super serious about it, because when I want to learn something new, I'm like all in. So I'm just like minding my business, trying to skate along. They're like doing the same thing, holding my hands as I go along. And every time I would start to like actually roll on my own, they would tackle me and push me into a bush. Repeatedly for 2 weeks. And I was just like, at first I didn't catch on that they were like, that's just how guys flirt in junior high sometimes, is they like, just like are mean. But once I caught on to that, I was like, I'm out. Like, this isn't cool. And I also just had this like great fear that every time I would start to roll, I would just topple over and fall, even though it was at no fault of my own. So when I was like 7th grade, I was like, I give up. I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much for me. I'm really freaked out by this. But in 2018, so just last year, I was scrolling through Instagram, like we all do sometimes, and I found this group called Girl Swirl. And I thought they were so inspiring. And as you saw from the video just a few minutes ago, Lucy, one of their co-founders, like they just started off just wanting to skate in Venice Beach, just wanting to skate. And what she said, and what is very true of skating in Los Angeles, is that you get catcalled when you go skating, you get made fun of, or it's like, girls can't skate. And that's hard. It really stinks, like being like, oh, you're a woman, you can't skate. And so they started this really cool group where they were like, we're gonna include people. We wanna be super inclusive, and we want everyone to be able to skate that wants to, no matter what age you are, no matter what gender you are, we want everyone to be able to skate. So they started Girl Swirl, and they meet every other Tuesday night in Venice Beach and all go skating together, no matter what level you're at, first day, or you've been doing it for years. And it's awesome. But the coolest thing that I found from them is like, it's not just that they are empowering women and girls, and I mean, guys too like to skate that have been like too afraid to do it. They're taking that and they're doing philanthropy through it. And like she said, she was like, all of a sudden we start doing photo shoots. Like they partnered with Polaroid for some stuff and Urban Outfitters and all these other big companies. And they're like, whoa, we're like getting known. And what do we do with that? And they didn't just use it to be famous or anything like that. They used it to reach other people. And they've gone down to Mexico a couple times, to the border, where there are kids in really impoverished neighborhoods, and some of them are even in border camps. And they're bringing hope to these kids. They're bringing skateboards. They're giving like them joy and giving them purpose and finding like a new hobby, which is just so cool. And they're just loving on these kids as they go down there. And they're not only loving on these kids, but they're loving on the people in their community. And it's just awesome. I think it's so rad. So that is, I just think, so inspiring. And so because of them, I started skateboarding this summer, and I am terrible. I'm literally like the world's okayest skateboarder there ever was. Like, I'm terrible at it, but it's all good. Because, it's just fun to try something new. So there's a story in the Bible. It's Esther. Have you guys heard of Esther before? Oh, yeah. Love Esther. She is so incredible. Her story is just mind-blowing. And I thought we could just journey through a story. You guys ready for a story time? All right. We're going to have a little bit of participation. So when you hear the name Haman, we're going to go, boo. When we hear Mordecai, we're going to be like, yeah. Cool, let's try it out. Haman. Boo. Mordecai. Yeah. Sweet. You guys are awesome. All right, so let's get started. Once upon a time, in the town of Susa, there was this great king, King Xerxes. And he had all of these men to his kingdom to celebrate for many, many, many weeks. And they were feasting and drinking and having a jolly old time. And he was like, I've got this really hot wife, Queen Vashti. You know what? I'm gonna show her off. And this isn't just like, hey honey, come and meet all my friends. This is more like, I've got a trophy wife and I wanna show her off and make everybody jealous. And Queen Vashti, she was a pretty strong woman, and she was like, no, not about that life. So she said no. And the king was like, no one says no to me. You are banished. So he banishes the queen. It's a bummer, right? So crazy. But pride got in the way. Pride is really just like a big part of this story because it gets in the way of a lot of people. All right, so next. He's like, let's bring all these women into my harem, and then I'll pick a new queen. So all these girls from his county, they're coming up and they're going to the harem and they're getting these like crazy beauty treatments. It's gonna take 12 months for them to get beautiful enough through all these spa treatments to meet the king. And one of these girls is named Esther, and she is the cousin of Mordecai. Sweet. So Mordecai tells her before she goes off to the harem, he's like, Esther, listen to me. Do not tell anyone that you are Jewish. Don't tell anyone. All right, so this is a secret. So she's like, cool, I'm not gonna tell anyone. So she goes, and Esther has this incredible favor with the guy who's in charge of the harem. And he gives her like extra special spa treatments and like these like basically ladies' maids. They were like servants. And he got her super prepared to go meet the king. So when she goes and meets the king is like, yep, you're the one. You're gonna be the new queen. So we got Queen Esther. And she's like, okay, cool. You know, she's a queen now. She's like living the life, getting all the spa treatments, hanging with the king. Sounds pretty cool, right? Pretty simple, pretty comfortable. Okay, now the king has his highest official, and his name is Haman. And you guys are doing great. And Haman, so what he does is whenever he goes around the countryside or whatever, or he passes by anybody, they are meant to bow down to him. And so he's just like walking around, and all the people are like bowing to him, and he's feeling really good about himself. And then here's Mordecai. And he's like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm not about that life. And Haman, he lets pride get in the way. He lets pride get in the way, and he's like, who is this guy? I need to know everything about him, and I'm gonna go talk to the king about it. So he finds out that Mordecai is a Jew. So he goes to the king, and he's like, so there are these people in our land, and they are like taking over. And he's like, I think that we should make a decree that says on March 7th, we are gonna go and kill all their people and take all their land or make them our slaves. And the king's like, whatever, man, like, do it. And he like puts his like signet ring in the decree, and it goes out to the land. So Mordecai, he's crushed. He's so crushed. And so he goes into mourning. He goes outside of the city gate, because if you were gonna be mourning in that time, you had to leave the kingdom. And so he's outside the city gate, and he is just beside himself. And the Jews in the town are just beside themselves. And Esther gets wind of this, and she's like, oh my goodness, I need to send my servant over to see what's going on with Mordecai. And that's where we pick up in our passage. All right, in the verse, we're not gonna do the woos though, okay? We're gonna wait till after the verse. All right, we got it. All right, so Mordecai gave, I don't know how to say his name, so that guy, a copy of the decree issued in Susa that called for the death of all Jews. He asked him to show it to Esther and explain the situation to her. He also asked him to direct her to go to the king to beg for mercy and plead for her people. So he returned to Esther with Mordecai's message. All right, and then Esther told him, go back and relay this message to Mordecai. All the king's officials and even the people in the provinces know that anyone who appears before the king in his inner court without being invited is doomed to die, unless the king holds out his gold scepter, and the king has not called for me to come to him for more than 30 days. So he gave Esther's message to Mordecai. We can go to the next verse. Mordecai sent his reply to Esther. All right, this part's really important. Don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace, you will escape when all the other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for such a time as this? Think about it. If Queen Vashti hadn't said no, and the king hadn't got upset about that and was like, I'm getting a new queen, Esther wouldn't have had this type of clout with the king. She was there for a reason. Isn't that insane? It's wild. Okay, so she's got this information and she's like, okay, well, I gotta go talk to the king. But that's super scary. She's just like living her clutch life as a queen, and now she has to go risk her life. I mean, what do you think you would do in that situation? That's a tough call. I mean, it looks like either way she could die, but one way is a lot sooner, and it's super scary to just go approach a king, especially when he hasn't called for you in 30 days. So she decides, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna do it. So she goes, and guess what? She's got favor with the king. He extends his scepter, and he's like, come forward, Queen Esther, what is it that you need? Let me know. And she's like, I would love to throw a banquet for you and Haman. And Haman's like, he's like, yeah, the queen, she's cool. She likes me. I'm liked by everybody. This is the best, except for Mordecai. Don't like that guy. So she has one banquet where she invites them, and it's the same day, and the king is like, what is it that you want? And she's like, you know what? I'm gonna make you guys another banquet tomorrow. So come on back tomorrow, and I'm gonna tell you what's going on. And they're like, great. And Haman's like, oh, yes. 2 banquets with the queen and the king. He's feeling pretty good about himself. So that night, the king, he's trying to sleep, and he's just not able to sleep. So he starts going through some books. They used to record everything that was going on in his kingdom at that time. So he's going through the books, and he sees this story, and he's like, oh my goodness, this guy Mordecai, who, he saved my life, and I didn't even know it. So Mordecai was one of the gatekeepers of the kingdom. And what happened is he overheard 2 other guards that were gonna try killing the king. So he stepped in and saved the day. And so the king is like, oh my goodness, what have we done to honor this man? What have we done? And his servant's like, we haven't done anything. So he goes out into his courtyard, and there's Haman. And he's like, Haman. You guys are good at this. This is fun. So he's like, okay, what would you do if the king wanted to honor somebody, and what would we do for him? And he's like, oh man, I mean, everybody loves me, and the queen is having me over for banquets. Who else could this be but me? Because of pride, right? And he's like, king, I would have you put on the king's robe and put him on a king's horse with the emblem, and then have one of the noblemen walk him around and be like, this is what the king does for someone he wishes to honor. And the king's like, that's awesome, let's do that. So he's like, go grab Mordecai. Put on my robes, grab the horse, and I want you to walk him around. How ironic is that? I mean, guys, it's funny. This stuff you can't make up. This is in the Bible. It's kind of hilarious. So this happens. They go around. Mordecai is honored. And then Haman goes to the banquet with Queen Esther and King Xerxes. And the king is like, all right, tell me what's going on. And she's like, this man right here, he's trying to kill all of my people. And the king is like, excuse me, what? The king is so angry, he walks out, and Haman starts to beg for mercy. And while he's begging, he ends up tripping over and falling on the queen. And the king walks in that moment, and he's like, you are not attacking my queen. And he literally just takes him out, and he's killed. He's gone. And the queen is like, well, now what do we do? Because the king's like, when I put a decree out, that can't be reversed. So what do you suggest? And she's like, I say that you issue another decree that says the Jews can rise up and defend themselves on this day. And so the king does. And that day comes, and the Jews were able to defeat their enemy. And if that hadn't happened, if Esther hadn't been able to go and talk to the king, what would have happened? That's a huge trickle-down effect. There's people alive now that wouldn't be alive today if Esther hadn't stepped up. I mean, that's pretty wild. And some of you might be thinking well, Esther's a queen, and Esther's a boss, and yeah, she is a boss. I could never measure up to that. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be some massive, bold thing where you save a ton of people. Everything that she did was rooted in love for people. And love is so important. There's a person from our community. Many people know him as Moose. And I just want you guys to hear just a little bit about him. We got a news clip that just went out about him the last couple weeks. So let's put that on the screen.
Thursday night, we lost Buena Vista's Canyon Hopkins to cancer. Canyon only got 21 years, but he made the most of them. Honor Society student, 4 sports star at Earlham High School. I did not know him, though I had mentioned during the state tournament 4 years ago that no one should underestimate an Earlham team with a guy named Canyon Hopkins. It's a great name, but his nickname was even better, Moose. And oh, how they loved Moose. When Moose learned he had soft tissue sarcoma, the support for Moose Strong came from all directions, young and old, hometown and university. No one fights alone, they said, and Moose did not. Loving family, countless friends, devoted girlfriend, tight teammates. They described Canyon Moose Hopkins as kind and loving, humble and compassionate, competitive and strong. Moose kept fighting, armed with an ever-present smile and faith over fear.
I didn't know Moose personally, but a lot of people in this room do. And just like we did a prayer offering tonight, for the past year, we've been praying over Moose. We've gotten multiple prayer requests for him over the last year and for his family. And his story is powerful. His story is so powerful. He got diagnosed with cancer a couple years ago. And instead of just giving up and sitting back and just like, I'm just gonna do whatever I feel like with my life right now, and I'm just gonna be all about me, he was about everybody else. He had such a heart to love people and take time for them. They did a Facebook Live of his funeral this weekend, and I got to watch part of it, and just the things that people said about him over and over and over again were, Moose loved so well. He loved so well. He made me feel known. He made me feel seen. And there's so much power in that. Just by expressing your care for somebody, by just taking the time to talk to them or see what they're interested in or whatever that is. I mean, he just got to know so many people and he supported so many people. And it was awesome just to hear all those stories time and time again from everybody that was closest to him. One of the things that his brother said was, even after he was diagnosed, the quality of making people feel loved never went away. It never went away. How powerful is that? Like, he didn't give up on that. His brother also said, while many people would use a variety of traits to describe him, it's not some unique superpower that makes Canyon who he is. It's something every one of us has the ability to do, and that's love. Every one of us has the ability to love people, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's awkward, even when you're like, nah, we'd never get along. Just give it a try. It's loving people, it changes the world. And Moose, he loved so deeply. He loved his team, he loved his family, he loved his town, and he took time for people, whether they were 60 years old or 6 years old. Age didn't matter. People just mattered to Moose, and that's so important. One of his teammates told a story about how they were in a small group together, and one big question that came up constantly with them is, how do I live a purposeful life? What does that look like? What does that mean? How do I live a purposeful life in my school? How do I live it just in the rest of my life? And really, from hearing time after time after time of people coming up and sharing about Moose, the answer is love. And it's powerful because it's like a trickle effect. So, all right, so here's you. And then this is your inner circle, which is like your family, your closest friends. And you've got that core. And when you guys have that, you can go out into the community and spread even more love. So like for Moose, it was like with his team, they were able to do things in the community. Not only that, he also mentored kids in the community. And so like his love was not only for his inner circle, but it flowed out to the community. And now it's like people are hearing about him like in the news and here tonight. And I know that his story is gonna live on and it's gonna go out into the world and it's gonna change lives. It's gonna change lives. Guys, he was 21 years old. That is not much older than you. That is not much older than you. And his story is so incredible, and yours can be too. So love. I absolutely love what his brother said about him. The quality of making people feel loved never went away. You know who else is quality of love for people never went away no matter what they were going through? Jesus. Jesus had all sorts of things happen while he was doing his ministry. And he came across so many different types of people, like the woman who was caught in adultery. You guys remember her? And the Pharisees were just ready to throw stones at her and stone her to death. And what did Jesus say? He who was without sin cast the first stone. He who is without sin cast the first stone. And what did they do? They set their rocks down and they walked away. And then what did Jesus do? He went up to her and he was like, where are your accusers now? They've all left. He had compassion on her and he just said, go and sin no more. How loving and compassionate was that? Or think about the crowds that would follow him. Jesus is walking around all the time with his disciples, constantly healing people, loving on people. And sometimes, he just wanted to get away too. There were times he was trying to get away and crowds would follow him and he would still take time for them. Or his best friend, Peter, one of the best friends, he had a few. When Jesus was on trial, his best friend, Peter, denied that he even knew him. Can you imagine if you were on trial for something that you didn't do and your best friend is there and there's let's just say some news people there and they're like, oh yeah, tell me about so-and-so. And you're just like, oh, I have nothing to do with them. I don't know them. Can you imagine how painful that would be? That just feels like a stab in the back. Your best friend denies who you are and denies even knowing you. And when Jesus came back after he resurrected from the dead, he restored Peter. That's love. That is love, and that is not always easy, and that takes courage. Even on the cross, Jesus showed love for everyone. And there's a passage in Luke. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. The soldiers, they gambled for his clothes by throwing dice. The crowd watched and the leaders scoffed. He saved others, they said. Let him save himself if he really is God's Messiah and the chosen one. I mean, they're just mocking him. And here he is, and he's like, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. That's love. The soldiers mocked him too by offering him a drink of sour wine. Next verse. They called out to him, if you are king of the Jews, save yourself. A sign was fastened above him with these words, this is the king of the Jews. One of the criminals hanging beside him scoffed, so you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself, and us too while you're at it. And all along, Jesus is thinking, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. But the other criminal, this is cool. He says, don't you fear God even when you have been sentenced to die? We deserve to die for our crimes, but this man, he's done nothing wrong. He's done nothing wrong. And then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus replied, I assure you today, you will be with me in paradise. That's love. And that love is for all of you. We will be in paradise with Jesus one day because of his love and his courage and getting out of his comfort zone and coming down on earth to die on a cross for us so we could be with him forever. Man, God's love for you is so real, and it is so tangible, and it can flow through you to every person that you encounter. It's so powerful. So our memory verse, the series right now is, for we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago. You guys were made for a purpose. You guys are here right now living in this day and age for a reason. How crazy is that? The God in heaven thought, I'm gonna make you and you and you and you and you and every person in this room for this day and age, for such a time as this. What is your purpose? I don't know what that is. I do know, though, that God, one of his main purposes for you, and maybe the most powerful one, is to love others, to love yourself, to love your neighbor, to love the people who are oppressed. You know, it could be something as simple as a hobby that you guys like the skateboarding crew out in Venice. It just started off with skateboarding, and now they're loving on masses of people in Los Angeles, and now on the border, these kids, and they're inspiring people all over the world. Or maybe it's like Moose, who didn't give in to, oh, poor me. Instead, he spent the rest of his days on earth loving people well and making sure they felt important, no matter who they were, no matter what their background was. Or maybe like Esther, who literally changed the trajectory for generations to come. Or like Jesus, who died for you, he died for me, and just let his love flow through us. Because we have that same power of love that Jesus has, and we can use that for this time. We can use that in our schools. We can use that with our neighborhoods. We can use that as you go off to college or your career or wherever you guys go next in life. God's love is in you. It's real. It's tangible. It's here for you. It's here for me. It's here for everyone. It's here for everyone. And you have the power to go share that with the world. Think about that. How can you love someone more or love someone better? How can you step out of your comfort zone? Because the most influential people in this world are ones who step out of their comfort zone, and there's some type of sacrifice. And sometimes the sacrifice is just the comfort. But there's always great reward. Why don't you guys just take a moment, close your eyes, and just pray about that for a minute. What is it that God's calling you to do to step out of your comfort zone? Who do you need to love? Or where do you need to step up? Is it mentoring? Just like Moose did? Is it helping someone out on your team who's struggling right now? Or a classmate who needs help with studying for a test? Maybe it's your parents. Maybe you need to give them a little bit more respect and a little bit more slack, because, there's no manual that tells you how to parent. But they love you so much. God, I thank you for each and every person in this room. And God, I thank you that you have a purpose for every single one of us. And God, I thank you for your love. Your love is so deep and it's so wide. And I'm just so thankful that you've put that in all of us, and we have power in your name. And through your love, we can change our inner circle, our community, our world, generations to come. God, I pray that you'll give everyone in this room courage and know that they are so loved. Thank you so much, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen. May you guys go out courageous and knowing you're so loved and that you have a purpose and that you are needed in this world. You are so valued. Man, you guys are incredible. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Next week, we are going to be talking about David, and it's going to be awesome. Amber's going to be back, so we hope to see you then. Take care.